Hey everyone, so this is my recipe for Smoky Ancho Chicken Quesadillas. You're going to want to add 2 cups of flour, as well as 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, and then you're going to want to give it a good mix before you add the bacon grease. So mix it up so it's evenly distributed. Mix, mix, mix. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and add 2 tablespoons of bacon grease or lard, and then you're going to want to cut that in with your fingers. Just mix it up. Get in there. Get dirty. This is cooking. So yeah, go ahead and crumble it between your fingers until it becomes a coarse meal. And then we're going to slowly add 1 cup of hot water gradually, making sure not to burn yourself. I typically don't use boiling water, I use almost boiling water. I let it settle just a little bit and cool off so it's not scalding hot. And then you're going to want to knead it for about 8 to 10 minutes. And you can lay more flour down if it seems a little too loose or a little too wet, which mine was. I unfortunately got the ratio a little bit wrong this time, but I have rectified the recipe and they turned out brilliantly. Definitely love homemade tortillas. They're so much fresher, so much better than the store-bought ones that have been sitting on the shelf for heaven knows how long. So then you're going to want to, I guess, knead it a little bit more. Apparently it needed it. So then form them into 10 individual balls and then let them rest for about 15 minutes, covered with a cloth. Alright, so then you roll them out and then you're going to want to put them on a hot griddle that's heated up to medium heat, and you're going to want to cook them for about 2 minutes. And you don't want to add any extra oil or anything. You just want to dry cook them so they sear off nicely. And then you're going to want to transfer it to a damp paper towel that's been lined with foil so you can cover it up. Yeah, I checked the bottom to make sure the bottom was properly seared. And then you just go on down the line and sear all of the rest of them. And you're going to want to cover the cooked tortillas with foil just to keep in the moisture to make sure they don't dry out. And then we're going to move on to our chicken thighs. And I prefer thighs because they're a little juicier, a little more tender. And we're going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil roughly, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, as well as a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and then a teaspoon of smoked paprika, which I put in almost all of my recipes. And then 1 teaspoon of ancho chili powder, another teaspoon of chipotle chili powder, and then we're going to want to toss it until everything's evenly coated. And I do refrigerate mine overnight just because it seems to help the flavors marry or sink into the flesh a little bit better, and it just creates a better chicken experience. Yay! It definitely makes it tastier. And then we're going to drizzle with about a tablespoon of olive oil before sealing it up and storing it in the fridge. And now, through the magic of editing, it's the next day. So we're going to go ahead and add a drizzle of olive oil to a hot pan, and we're going to go ahead and sear off our chicken that's been marinating overnight. I typically cook my chicken thighs at medium heat so they don't burn, but they do cook through evenly and get a nice sear. You're going to want to flip it halfway through and make sure to check the temperature to make sure that it's 165 degrees before you take it off and let it rest tented with foil. And one of the thighs was smaller than the other, so I had to pull it earlier, but it was still warm and it was just fine. And then you're going to want to add 1 cup of bell peppers chopped, as well as 1 cup of onions chopped, and a tablespoon of garlic, or 2 cloves. So now we're ready to make our quesadillas. Yay! So you're gonna wanna heat a skillet over medium heat. Bring out all of the goodies. You want about 1 cup of cheese per quesadilla. And then you want about a 1/2 cup of corn for 3. I found that was good. So then 1 pat of butter that you want melted. And go ahead and spread it around so that it evenly distributes along the tortilla. And I like to give it a little toss, just to make sure that the whole pan, or most of the pan, is covered. The part that counts. So then 1 tortilla, and then you're gonna add about 2/3 of the cup of cheese. And then you're going to add 1/3 of the bell pepper, vegetable, onion, garlic mixture. And you want to evenly distribute it around the surface of the tortilla. And then we're gonna add our chicken. And I love chicken, so I like to add quite a bit. But I do like to spread it out evenly, just so every bite has sort of the same taste and all of the different ingredients. And we're gonna add a bit of corn. Oops, it slipped off. And then the remaining 1/4 cup of cheese. So then place the other tortilla on top, and then I use a skillet to press it down. It presses it into the hot pan and just sort of gives it a better sear and more crispiness, and it helps to cook the cheese a little bit faster. So then we're gonna flip it and sear the other side until it's golden brown. And there you have it, Smoky Ancho Chicken Quesadillas.